Hello and welcome to the Critically Curious. Today is the game of the year. Yes, it has got to that time and we are at the end of the year and it's time to kind of review and talk about all the games that have released this year. Now, we've reviewed a lot on the channel. I believe we've got around 50 reviews, first impressions, something like that we've done so far on this channel. We've reviewed an awful lot. We've had some absolute belters out this year. I think last year we had a little bit of a drought when it came to gaming, but 2023 has been anything but a drought. We've had a plethora of games coming out back to back in some instances. Just a few to shout out right at the beginning of the year would have been Hogwarts Legacy. Some people dubbed that as the game of the year as soon as it released right at the beginning of this year. Then you had games like Starfield that had been delayed upon delayed upon delayed. We finally got access to that game this year, that being Bethesda's big AAA next huge game that they're going to be supporting and then reselling to you for the next 10 years, of course. We've had Baldur's Gate 3, possibly the very first true AAA rated ARPG that come out of almost absolute nowhere. We've had games like Life of P just trying to do things a little bit different and of course bringing some of that Dark Souls elements to it as well. We've had Alan Wake 2, Payday 3, a brand new installment of Final Fantasy as well. That one, of course, trying to be a lot more action and make this its very true, very own action game, which was an interesting one, that's for sure. We had the new installment of the Assassin's Creed franchise, that being Mirage. We've had little games like Dungeons 4's coming out from Calypso, and of course Lamplighters, or the League of Lamplighters, and many, many, many more games that I would have probably forgotten about too. Another game I'd like to mention within this list is Wartales. It's a game that I kind of stumbled on to a little while after release. The game took me by complete surprise. What a game for anyone that hasn't played it. It's a game that I would highly recommend you seek out and sort out. Now, when it comes to getting the big game of the year from the Critically Curious, you need a few different things. It has to have come out this year. I have to have reviewed it on the channel as well. So that's what we're going to be talking about. If a game hasn't been reviewed by us on this channel, it can't win the list, because this is all about my experience and experience that I've had throughout the game, what I found the most entertaining, what I've wanted to exceed, you know, all expectations, that kind of thing. I think a few of the things we should really talk about is disappointments. I think two big games that spring to mind this year for disappointments was, number one, the Lamplighters League. It was a game that I was really looking forward to. It's a turn-based strategy game. It tried to do things a little bit different, implement a kind of deck building system to that whole genre. And unfortunately, it fell completely short. It was very bland. The game itself was a bit meh, just all over. And I feel like in all, it was really, really disappointing. I think another game we can kind of put on that list was Hogwarts Legacy. It's a game that personally I'd be looking forward to for a very long time. I played Hogwarts a hella a lot. And it's one... It's just one I've wanted to enjoy more than anything, and unfortunately it fell a little bit short. And I think if you look at all the people that have bought the game versus how many of the percentage have actually completed the game, or that are maybe still currently playing the game today, you know, almost a year after release, the numbers drop off extremely fast, and it's really disappointing. I think there's a few key elements that needed to be in there from day one that just weren't. I think that being Quidditch for one. Quidditch absolutely should have been in that game. I'm pretty sure they were aware that we wanted it in the game, and I think that maybe it should have just been delayed until they got to a point where that element could be brought into it. Real shame. Hogwarts Legacy for me is possibly the biggest disappointment of the year. And that's saying something, because there's a couple other games in here that just didn't really hit that mark either. I think Starfield being another one of those games. Starfield should have been a lot bigger and better than it actually was. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the game. I reviewed it very positively. I played it a lot. I've made a few videos on that game as well. But I feel like, again, it's just one that people just kind of fell out of love with a little bit too quickly, and that's a huge, huge shame. I think Bethesda may need to try and find a way to recover from this. I'm sure it's going to be one that they support. I'm sure it's going to be one that is going to get DLCs and tweaks and updates a lot going forward, and so that's absolutely fabulous. I'm sure the game will improve. For me, unfortunately, it's just a game that a lot of people just seem to just fall out of love with extremely quickly. Another game that I was really looking forward to, I think many people were too, was Ark Survival Ascended. This was a game that is dubbed as the next-gen survival game. It's a game that we absolutely all knew needed to be revamped, should look absolutely amazing on Unreal Engine 5, and don't get me wrong, the game can look spectacular in places at times, especially on single player or on a very high-end PC. But with the amount of delays, with the amount of changes, with the amount of bugs and things just completely broken, it's a real shame the players got what they did receive. And of course, the old Ark Survival Evolved, those servers, those online servers, because this is majority a online game, they all got shut down for Ark Survival Ascended. It's a big shame. Again, it's going to be a game that's going to be supported throughout the years. It's going to be a game that I feel like was forced to come out because of contracts that they had to fulfill. Otherwise, it would have been, for the industry. So that's going to be an interesting one to keep hold of into 2024, just how much it improves and where it goes. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the game does improve and it does become a lot more stable. At the moment, on, for instance, the Xbox Series S, the game is just horrendous looking. X, it's not too bad. PlayStation 5, it's not too bad. PC, high-end PC, can be very, very good. But the exploits and the glitches and all of this stuff, it's just an absolute no-no. Anyway, let's talk about my game of the year and why I feel like it should be my game of the year. Now, I normally do a top three. This for me this year is a little bit tough because I'm really not too sure what I would want to be as my top three, even as I'm recording this video, and I've been thinking about it for a very long time. We've already put games that we're disappointed with. I think games that I have been surprised and pleasantly surprised with, for me, is Wartales. Wartales was an indie-based game. It's a game that I was really surprised worked so well. There's so many different elements when it comes to the fighting, to the recruiting, to the micromanagement of food and supplies and all that kind of things. If you haven't seen this game, please go check it out. I do have a review on my channel. It's one that I would highly recommend you playing, especially as a palate cleanser. It's not particularly a long game. You can complete it fairly quickly, but it is one that I think deserves more attention, and it should get a little bit more of going forward. My runners up, I feel like, has to be a game called Lies of P. It come out of absolutely nowhere. It's a game that, for me, it's not really my cup of tea with the whole genre of it being Dark Souls, but it's definitely, the artwork is really interesting. The fighting style is really nice as well. I think it's very challenging in a lot of different places, and again, it's just a game that I just didn't expect to be anywhere near as good as it actually was. So I think that's got to be my third place and second place. Very surprising, to be fair, considering we had games like Hogwarts Legacy, like Starfield, like Final Fantasy, like Alan Wake 2. That was a game that was waited on for a very, very long time. But my game of the year has to be Baldur's Gate 3. The reason Baldur's Gate 3 for me has to be game of the year is because I believe it is the first truly AAA rated, RPG, top-down RPG, truly, you know, getting that D&D vibe into a game and making it work. Now, we've had games like Pathfinder Right for the Righteous, Pathfinder Kingmaker. Before that, of course, we have had Divinity Original Sin 2. These are the type of games, this is the benchmark for this genre of game, and Baldur's Gate 3 absolutely came out flying. A fully voice acted game, a beautiful turn-based combat. You almost have too much choice within this game, too much player agency. There are so many things that you have the ability to change, that you have agency on. It really is a beautifully come together game, and I think the entire game industry at the moment is talking about just how good this game is. If you haven't played any of these type of games before, I actually recently had someone comment on a video that I done for Warhammer 40k and its Rogue Trader. Now that is very much the same thing. It is a, you know, ARPG, turn-based combat. You have to go through, collect quests, all that kind of stuff, build up your squad, kit them out with gear, go across, you know, and explore this world. Baldur's Gate 3 is the best first installment to this game. The problem is people are going to play Baldur's Gate 3, think, oh my god, this is so good, and how can they now downgrade to all the other games? Because what Baldur's Gate 3 done is something very, very unique. It took a genre of gaming and elevated it to the very next level. So that now is the new benchmark. Now, I love Divinity Original Sin 2. I think the Divinity games are absolutely fantastic. They're all made by the same people as well. Larian Studios, they also made Baldur's Gate 3. So it's going to be interesting now going forward, looking at these sort of games and seeing who can actually keep up with Baldur's Gate 3, because the fact that this game is so big, and we are talking about a game that took me personally about 140, 150 hours to complete. I've spent 250 hours in the game, and it's still a game that I'm going to be going back into, trying different playthroughs, trying different choices, because there's almost a morality system within it. Do you want to be good? Do you want to be bad? Do you want to be a little bit in between? So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this genre of gaming going forward, and of course with Baldur's Gate 3 going forward, if it receives brand new DLCs, if it receives new updates and stuff like that. So far since release, we're a few months after release now, the game's got a ton of new updates and a ton of new tweaks and things like that. Larian Studios have been so good with the community. It's almost breathtaking to see them, you know, become this darling child of the gaming community. Hopefully, I really hope it continues, and I hope things continue to look forward to. 2024 has a lot to, you know, live up to, because 2023 was really a year for gaming. There we go, guys. That's all I have for you at the end of this video. We have Baldur's Gate 3 as the winner, won Game of the Year on the Critically Curious. But until next time, I've been a monk, we've been Critically Curious, and I will see you in the next video real soon. Until then, take it easy, and of course, as ever, guys, happy gaming.